What happens when a healer's daughter becomes a doctor and her first real patient needs both medicine and herbs to survive? Will she choose science or betray everything she studied for? And if she chooses wrong, someone will die tonight. Amaka was born into the house of Chief Obi, one of the most respected traditional healers in the whole of Umuahia. From the day she could walk, she saw the long line of villagers who came to her father's compound every morning. Men with swelling legs, women coughing blood, children who could not stop shaking with fever. And every time she watched her father grind roots, burn leaves, and whisper ancient incantations before giving them medicine. Strangely, they always got better. The villagers called him the man whose hands spoke to the spirits of the forest. But to Amaka, he was just Papa. And Amaka was different. While other children sat in her father's shrine waiting for herbs, she sat outside with borrowed books, flipping through pages of biology and chemistry. She wanted answers beyond spirits, beyond chants. She wanted to know why the herbs worked, not just believe they did. One night, after watching a child recover from convulsions after drinking her father's mixture, she asked him a simple question. Papa, what if the child needed more than herbs? What if one day the leaves don't work? Her father looked at her with those stern, unblinking eyes. He said, Amaka, the forest never fails. It is man who does not understand it. But Amaka wasn't convinced. From that night on, her dream changed. She would not remain in the compound mixing leaves in a calabash. She would leave, study, and become a doctor. And so she did. She studied hard, left the village, and returned years later in a crisp white coat, stethoscope hanging proudly around her neck. The villagers gathered to watch her, whispering, Chief Obi's daughter is now a doctor. But little did she know, her greatest test was waiting. The news spread quickly through Umuahia. Chief Obi's daughter, Amaka, had returned as a medical doctor. Some villagers celebrated, others frowned, whispering that she had abandoned the ways of her father. But Chief Obi, he said nothing. He watched her from the shadows of his hut as she set up a small clinic at the edge of the market. Day after day, he heard stories of how she injected medicine, prescribed tablets, and explained illnesses in strange English words. And while he was proud deep inside, his pride as a healer did not allow him to show it. The first real clash came sooner than anyone expected. It was a hot afternoon when a young boy was rushed into the clinic. He had collapsed at school. His breathing was shallow, his lips pale. Amaka quickly tested him. Severe malaria. She hung a drip, gave an injection, and sat by his side. But just as she was checking his pulse, Chief Obi walked in. He held a small calabash in his hand. This boy's spirit has been attacked, he said, his voice steady. Medicine alone cannot chase it away. Amaka frowned. Papa, please, this is malaria. He needs this drip to recover. Chief Obi ignored her, dipped his fingers into the calabash, and sprinkled herbs on the boy's forehead. The villagers gasped. Amaka felt fire rise in her chest. Papa, you can't just walk in here and pour leaves on my patient. The room went silent. Chief Obi looked at her calmly and said, Daughter, you wear your white coat with pride. But remember, before you were a doctor, you were the child of a healer. And with that, he left the room, leaving the air heavy with tension. Amaka clenched her fist. She had become a doctor to prove that the old ways were fading. But her father was not ready to let them go. Weeks passed. Amaka's clinic grew busy, and her father's compound never stopped receiving patients. The silent battle between them continued unspoken but sharp. Then came Mama Chinyere. She was a respected trader in the village, loved by many. One morning, she collapsed in the middle of the market. Her sons rushed her to Amaka's clinic. Amaka checked her temperature, burning hot. She checked her pulse, weak and faint. She listened to her chest, irregular. "This is serious," Amaka muttered. She quickly placed her on a bed, started an IV, and gave her medication. But something was wrong. By evening, the fever had reduced, but Mama Chinyere's body trembled violently. By nightfall, her skin turned pale, almost grey. Amaka tried different treatments, but nothing worked. And then, Chief Obi arrived. He looked at the woman, nodded slowly, and said, "I have seen this sickness before. It is not malaria alone. It is a sickness that hides in the blood. Only a certain root can calm it." Amaka shot him a sharp look. "Papa, please, don't start this again. I am monitoring her condition. She just needs time." But deep inside, Amaka was unsettled. She had never seen a case behave like this before. Every injection gave temporary relief, but something deeper kept pulling the woman back into darkness. That night, as she sat by Mama Chinyere's bed, listening to her weak breathing, she couldn't shake her father's words. What if, this time, the herbs held an answer her medicine could not give? And if so, what did that mean for everything she believed in? The night was long in Omaya. Rain drummed against the zinc roof of Amaka's clinic. Inside, the lantern light flickered across Mama Chinyere's face. Her breathing had become shallow, her eyes rolling back as if drifting between life and death. Amaka sat by her side, exhausted, whispering to herself, "Please, hold on, just hold on." She had tried everything she knew, every drug, every test. Nothing seemed enough. Just then, the door creaked open. Chief Obi stepped in, carrying a small clay pot filled with steaming herbs. The smell filled the room, sharp and earthy. "Daughter," he said quietly, "the woman is slipping away. Your medicine is strong, but it is not enough. Let me help." Amaka stiffened. "Papa, I can't let you interfere again. If she survives with your herbs, people will say my training is useless. They will laugh at me." Chief Obi looked at her with sad eyes. "And if she dies under your hands, what will they say then?" The words pierced Amaka's chest. She turned away, blinking back tears. Her whole life she had fought to prove herself, prove that she was more than the healer's daughter, more than just a village girl. If she accepted his help now, did that mean everything she studied for was a waste? But then, Mama Chinyere let out a choking gasp, her body jerked, her lips trembling. Amaka's heart stopped. She pressed her stethoscope to the woman's chest. The heartbeat was faint, too faint. Chief Obi stepped closer, lifting the pot. "Daughter, pride cannot save a dying woman. Let us try together." For the first time in years, Amaka's eyes met her father's without anger. She hesitated, trembling, torn between pride and desperation. The room grew silent. The only sound was the storm outside, and in that silence, Amaka whispered the words her father had been waiting to hear. "Papa, let's do it together." The clinic turned into a strange theater that night. On one side, Amaka prepared her syringes and IV drips. On the other, Chief Obi spread herbs on a tray, chanting softly under his breath. The villagers pressed against the windows, peeking in, whispering in awe. Doctor and healer, walking side by side? Amaka held Mama Chinyere's arm, administering a final dose of medicine to stabilize her fever. At the same time, Chief Obi crushed roots into a paste, feeding the woman spoonfuls while rubbing her chest with the mixture. The air was tense. No one knew if this mix of modern science and ancient tradition would save her or kill her. Amaka's hands shook as she adjusted the drip. Her thoughts raced. What if this doesn't work? What if people call me a failure? Or worse, what if Papa is right? Chief Obi's chants rose louder, then faded into silence as he placed a hand over the woman's heart. His voice was low, steady. Let the forest speak through these leaves. Let life remain in this body. The minutes stretched like hours. Mama Chinyere's chest rose weakly, then fell. Rose again, then stilled. Amaka froze. No, no, no. She pressed her stethoscope harder, panic rising in her throat. And then, suddenly, Mama Chinyere coughed, a deep, heavy cough that shook her whole body. She opened her eyes, staring around in confusion. The room erupted. Villagers shouted in amazement. Some clapped, some fell to their knees. Amaka dropped her stethoscope, tears streaming down her cheeks. Relief washed over her like a flood. She looked at her father, who was quietly packing his herbs, saying nothing. For the first time, Amaka did not see him as an enemy to her progress. She saw him as a partner, someone who had walked a path she could never ignore. The healer and the doctor had saved a life together. The next morning, the village awoke to news that spread faster than fire. Mama Chinyere was alive. She had walked out of the clinic with her children by her side, her voice strong again. But more than her healing, it was the story of what happened inside that clinic that stirred the hearts of the people. For the first time, the healer and the doctor had worked as one. And for the first time, Amaka and her father looked at each other without pride, without stubbornness, only respect. Later that day, Amaka sat with Chief Obi outside the compound. The sun was setting, painting the sky gold. She turned to him and said softly, "Papa, I thought becoming a doctor meant I had to prove you wrong. But last night, I saw the truth. Your herbs, my medicine, maybe they are not enemies after all." Chief Obi chuckled, his voice deep and calm. "My daughter, the sky has room for both the sun and the moon. They shine at different times, but together they complete the day. So it is with our ways. You carry the knowledge of books, I carry the wisdom of the forest. One without the other is incomplete." Amaka's eyes filled with tears. She reached out, holding her father's hand for the first time in years. From that day on, something changed in Umuahia. Patients no longer whispered about choosing between the doctor and the healer. They spoke instead of going to the house of two medicines. The clinic and the compound became one, a place where tradition and modernity worked side by side. And Amaka, she wore her white coat proudly, but beside her stethoscope hung a small calabash, not as a symbol of defeat, but of balance. The healer's daughter had learnt the greatest lessons of all. Wisdom is not found in rejecting the past, nor in blindly embracing the new. It is found in knowing when both must bow to save a life. I hope you enjoyed this story. Kindly share your thoughts about this story with me in the comment section below. Give this story a thumbs up and share this video with your loved ones. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so by now. Thanks for watching.